the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but you will meditate therein day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you shall have good success. All praises to the Most High, Him who possesses all time and space and matter. Yes, this book of the law, I mean, a good way to do it is just copy and paste. You can take, because there was a book of the law, else O'Shea, aka Joshua, would not have mentioned the book of the law. So the book of the law is not just this historical account. All we have is a historical account. We do not have the book of the law, but the historical account is good. Yes. So therefore, if you will, to understand and rememorize, or just let it be a part of you, a daily meditation, you can just go down through Exodus and the different books of Moses and begin to extract the parts that are law, commandments, statutes, and ordinances, and put them into those categories for yourself. Yes, you can make your own YouTube channel just with that if you want to, and begin to meditate on these things. Okay, this is the law, this is a statute, this is an ordinance, and before you know it, you will know the feast days, you will know what God hates and what God likes. And the law really is a measure of love. We have to have something to measure our actions with, whether they're right or wrong. There has to be a measure. And this is what the law is about. Any law is a measure. In other words, you're going down the street and not everybody's going the same speed, and this could be mixed up. Everybody doing the speed that he seemed is right for him. But there is nothing there to regulate or put everybody on the same page. It's not control. It's just being cooperative. So you establish a speed limit that is not only safe but practical. And then everybody is there. Therefore, it's a law. When you exceed that, the measure is the speed limit. The law says you exceed the speed limit, then there's a judgment to prove that you were guilty of exceeding the speed limit. And then after that, what is happening? After that speed limit is exceeded, then there must become a sentence. And that sentence, for practical purposes, is in the form of a fine. Yes, a fine. Most likely a fine in this world. But laws are needed. See, you have to watch the wordplay of the heathen when he talks about, now the heathen can be anybody that does not believe in the Most High. Now, you have to watch the way of the heathen. He will try to downgrade. These are really just devils. They don't know what is swaying the thoughts of men's hearts, according to, should I say, Jubilees, chapter 12 and verse 20. They don't know what's swaying their heart. And many times these things hit our hearts. Oh, you can get away with that. It's not bad. And these things could wind up into things like worshiping other gods, doing days that God did not prescribe, especially those of you who call yourself by the name of Jacob. Now, also, the fact is that we can get into other things like adulteries and, desiring our neighbor's things to the point where we steal, kill, and destroy. Now let us get into this. Let's go to, let's say Leviticus 19 and 18. Go to Leviticus 19 and 18. Leviticus 19 and 18. What does it say? Now this is what we're going to deal with in the law now. 19 and 18 says, now, he says, neither shall thou, I think I went a little bit too early. Okay, 19, 18, not that. But this is one part of the law that we will have to understand. He says, thou shalt not avenge. He says, now look, he says 17, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart, Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and suffer not to sin upon him. Suffer sin upon, in other words, beating him because you hate him. Over you tell him how you feel. That's what he's saying. And this is not the same thing that Jesus said to, or they say they borrowed from here and they reworded it. In other words, he's saying, don't just hate your brother in your heart, but go in any wise rebuke him. In other words, your brother. He's not talking about the whole world. He's talking about your brother, the Israelite, the Jacob, those who are professing the same thing. You know, things are going to happen. God knows we are human. And this is what's so beautiful about the law, that God knows we're human. He said, tell him, hey man, you just pissed me off. Because the fact is, you did this and you did that. And a lot of times, he said, you're not going to bear a grudge. You're going to tell your neighbor. And this is how they took in the New Testament from the Old. Now, I'm reading from the 66 books. I'm not in the book of Joshua or anything. And this is what they say Jesus said, who said he was the Word. And they had the law right there, so that makes that null and void. In other words, a false doctrine. The New Testament is false. It has some truth in it. It has so many truths, but it's confusing truth, and then they're able to manipulate it, even in the pulpits and everything else. But nevertheless, he says, thou shalt not avenge. Now, if you go to Matthew chapter 5, and you read in Matthew 5, chapters 5, 6, and 7, and you go through the law, you're going to see all those things in it, but reworded. Reworded from the law. So, he says that they make this claim that Jesus or this Yahushua or Yahusha said that I am the way, the truth, and the life. How is he the way, the truth, and the life? When they use the thing about words, the word of God. The word of God is never flesh. Flesh cannot even deal with the word of God. God is a frequency. God is words. When he speaks words, there are certain frequencies in those words. If you want to get into this new age stuff. But God, when God speaks, God don't have to speak. It's just so. If he just says be, whatever he says, whatever he's thinking or says be, it is. He's never had, God is not an image. That's why we cannot have images. We cannot have flesh and blood cannot be God. Neither can flesh and blood turn into God. No way. So this is where one of the passages in the Old Testament, as you go through the law, you're going to see a lot of things. But let's go to 19. You shall keep my statutes. Now we're in 18. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people. See, this is what he meant. And then what Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. And then the pulpit says, you have to love everybody in the world. So that means when they done slaved you, beat you, robbed you, killed you, took from you all the resources that God has given you, love your neighbor. Do good to those that hate, and they're going to continue hating you, beating you, and everything. That ain't what God meant. That's false doctrine. Now, he says, but love thy neighbor as thyself. I am Yahweh, Yahuwah, Tata, Nzambi, Sinini, Nainini, Deheya, Ya Allah. Yes, this I am that I am. See, they have manipulated to put Lord up. Anybody can be a Lord, but nobody can be Yah. Now, let's go back to Exodus. Exodus chapter 20. Love thy neighbor as thyself. This was just to give you a tidbit of the law, of knowing the law, letting the law be a part of you. And this book of the law, to think of the book of the law, yes, because when things come up, the law is going to hit you in the face. You're going to say, no, this is not right before God. I remember when just a few days ago, a neighbor called herself, she said she's going to cook some, we black folks love collard greens, and she said she wasn't going to put any pork per se in it. And I hadn't eaten pork in many years. And so now this lady gives me pork. She's an old lady. She didn't know better. But what she didn't give me pork. She gave me collard greens and some sweet potatoes in a plate, and she gave it to me. But when I ate it, it tasted greasy, and it tastes like pork was in it, and I felt, my whole body felt like something went through me, and I felt sick. And so I let her know. I said, you meant well. I thank you for the food, but I cannot, my body, and I cannot eat this stuff. I don't want to eat it. And she apologized for what she'd done. So we're in Exodus. Let's go to Exodus chapter 20. Yes, we're still in chapter 20 of the law. Now, here we go again. We ended with, remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. 6 days shall we labor and do all thy work. This is general. I'm sure in the book of the law there's more to it as far as how to keep the Sabbath, when the Sabbath is, and all of that. But that has been erased by the heathen. Okay? And in the Sabbath, he said, thou shalt not do any work, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy maidservant, nor thy... but if you go further into the law, you're going to find out that, or in the historical account of the law, you're going to find out that there's more to it than just the Sabbath day. And so they have established the Sabbath day on a man's day. He has changed the times and seasons. They changed not only time, they've changed the days. See, you have to go by God's way. God's way is the lunar way, the way he's designed the sun, the moon, and stars to do their work. Yes, even the book of Enoch tells you how they do their work. So, therefore, we shall keep the Sabbath day and holy. In other words, think on those things of the Most High. Think of those things that are good and nice, that are pleasant. Now, and no work, period. Doesn't mean, most of the time God will tell them to gather your wood before that time. In other words, you don't come out your house or whatever. But we have to look at it. You cannot turn off all your electricity in this hot heat of the summer. You turn off all your electricity, you will not have nothing to cool you. Nor fan, nor nothing. You have to fan. If you got to fan yourself like this, electricity helps you fan another way. And if it's in the winter, you still need the wood to heat your ovens, in other words, heat your home. So let's use common sense. This is what they did. He said, gather all that you need before the Sabbath. You don't go out on the Sabbath gathering what you need, buying and selling and gathering. No, he don't say that. He says you don't do it on the Sabbath. So you have everything you need in your home. You use it to whatever you need. Only those things that are necessary. Eating, heating, cooling, and light. Yes, you can use light. God is not limited on man's strictness. No. No, he's not. So the fact is that we had ended with the Sabbath day. Now we get to verse 12 in Exodus 20. This is part of the law. We're going to write all these things you can paste and copy. Okay, this is the general law. This is what we're going to call the general law. He says, now honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the I am thy God giveth thee. Now, we're not in the land that the I am our God have given us. We have been cast out by virtue. First, it began with our neighbors, and it continued to be with our own rebelliousness, even among the people that call themselves by God's name. And many of them are still in darkness. God have allowed this because we have really angered him. And he has a time where he's going to stretch his hands forth to receive or destroy even the children of Jacob. Now, he says, now, how do you honor your father and your mother? Does it mean that you have like a Martin Luther King Day or something like that? No. A birthday? No, it doesn't mean that. It means doing those things which pleases your father and your mother. Because usually a father and a mother is going to display a lot of morality toward their children. In other words, if you do this, son, this would be wise to do. Or if you do this, daughter, this will be wise to do. Dress like this, son, dress like this, daughter, so that you might be wise and that you might have good success. We're not saying dress like Europeans. I seen one guy on YouTube talking about how that, you know, some people would, not YouTube, but I was on another social media. But he was talking about how that the earrings and the nose jewels, those things does not tend toward ungodliness. Tattoos, God command. He was talking about tattoos also. Yes, God forbids tattoos. He forbids it because it's pagan. It's really pagan. Oh, I'm gonna remember my mother and my brother. You don't need that. You have your own memory. Why do you have to tattoo it? You don't remember your own mama or daddy's name? And then some of you crazy enough to do a ex-spouse or ex-girlfriend that you call a boyfriend. We can be foolish, and the demons, the entities, the demons and all of that, they can cause us to also being swayed. Remember the prayer of Abraham, to keep me from these devils that have sway over the thoughts of men's hearts. Oh, it came from my heart, but what was that speaking in your heart? Was it, if it's against the statutes, commandments, and ordinances of the Most High, that is not God. Generally, we have those things. So when we honor our mother, we give them gifts, we provide for them, we do things that pleases them. We don't raise our hand or our voice toward our father and our mother. No, we don't. It's enough that the enemy have come in and used the heathen to separate different families and cause men to walk out of their homes because and trick the young woman to the point that she thinks she's getting a free meal from him. And the children began to go get turned into slaves through the prison industrial complex and all these other things because she has no husband and the ex-wife is just messed up. He says, now honor thy mother and thy father, that your days may be long. Now we can put that and say, until we get to the land that the I am our God gives us. But at that time, they were getting ready to go into Canaan, the land which God had given unto their father Shem. And Canaan decided he just want to plop his butt down right there. And his father and his brothers warned him not to do it. Let's continue. Thou shalt not kill. It means thou shalt not murder. That's what it is. Kill. You have to kill. Throughout all the history of Israel, they had to kill. They had to kill enemies and all that, but was it out of malice? No, it was protection. Or it was to take back a certain thing that God had told him to get back. Or God had used him as he would use the angels. Go and do this to this people. This is how God would do it. Thou shalt not murder. In other words, with malice, with jealousy. Your neighbor really hadn't done anything to you. He's talking about your brother. Now, somebody mess with your brother, then you have to do what you have to do to that person. Especially here in certain lands, some of them, they get away with literal murder by their judicial and their enforcements. They use enforcement to murder. They use the judicial system to murder. They use the political system to murder. And yet, you know, here the children of Jacob are stuck. He's trying to preserve his life, and he's talking about dying, and the other one's talking about murdering. So sometimes you're going to have to stand up for yourself and stop thinking about dying and thinking about living regardless of what you have to do. You do what you got to do. Or that your family might live. You do what you got to do. God is not against that. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Okay, adultery. Adultery is like idolatry. See, a man in those days could have more than one wife. So the women understood that he might like another woman, as long as she's not married to another man, because that other man's wife is not yours. She's unavailable. I don't care how beautiful, how big her buttocks is, or how shapely or pretty beautiful she is. Yes, beautiful woman, nice, not mine. Unavailable. Plain as day. And now married woman is married to one man. An abomination is when a woman is married to 3 and 4 men. That is a very bad abomination because it denotes whoredom. It is whorish. It's an whoredom. Because the fact is that here you are a seed bucket. You do not know which male did what or whose baby that. And in that day, they did not have the DNA test. You mean you got 2 husbands in the same house and then you're going to have the devil is a liar. That is, the Satans are just steadily laughing at the stupidity of us human beings. Yes. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Same thing as adultery. God don't want you going around with things that are stupid. In other words, wooden idols, idols of Mary, idols of saints. Most saints are white anyway. There's no black saints out there. Not that they've picked. They're not going to pick no black saint. And they're false. You're worshiping Isis. You're worshiping everything except for the Father. And this is the allegory of the Father. Or should I say, as the Greek put it, the Father or the Creator. Because he had put creativeness in mankind, in man himself. The seed is dormant. I mean, it's alive in your scrotum and all that, but it's dormant, really. It doesn't come to life. Scientists have proven this, that there's an electrical charge that as soon as a man does his thing or that time comes, there's electrical, some type of electrical, they explain it to be, hits the sperm and it goes into the woman alive. God breathed into the man life, and that life he took from man and gave to woman too. These things are not an allegory. They are there from birth. Now, this must be what it means by rib. That is not literally a rib of a man. How crazy can you get? It's not just Adam rib God took. God is not that. Please, give me a break. Now, thou shalt not steal. A petty thief is not the problem in this day and time. A petty thief. Thou shalt not steal. You have embezzlement. When they embezzle, you have those that are con artists. You have those that steal, even those that call themselves crypto mining. They are stealing your money. Then tell you you can't get it. You have to put more in, and most of you don't understand it's just a scam. Some prosper, most don't. And they start to scam you until you get to the point where you realize I've been scamming, you can't get your money, and they filter it through so many people and so many entities that you don't know where to start. You don't know where to go. So crypto mining can be a big scam artist nightmare. Or should I say those who get into it, it can be a scam of a nightmare. Yes. So thou shalt not commit adultery. In other words, you're messing with idols, other gods. So he put that down into marriage too. He said, you commit adultery. You're worshiping other gods other than me. You're talking to other men other than your husband. Whether it's many wives or one wife, it doesn't matter. You're talking to other ones. You're praying. Talking is praying. Praying is talking. Watch the wordplay. When you get to talking and giggling with other men in a form that you're associating with them, this is why some cultures, they tell the woman, don't say nothing. So, man, you should not feel offended when a woman says nothing to you because she belongs to another, whether it's by betrothal or marriage. She's not yours. And she only answers to her husband or her husband-to-be. That's it. It's not that she's under control. It's that she loves another and she understands that this is who she has chosen and who has chosen her. And therefore, she's going to please this man in his presence and out of his presence. Yes. And he's going to do the same. Unless he finds a woman attractive and he goes to his wife or the first wife and says, I like this woman. She's nice. You know, can she be with us in our community? And usually the wives will agree if they like the woman. This has been for thousands, tens of thousands of years. And what came? The Antichrist there's no such thing as the Antichrist, because you know who the Christ is? The children of Jacob. Because in the book of Enoch, he says, God will come with 10,000 of his anointed. Anointed, Christ means anointed ones. So this makes that New Testament null and void also. Now, thou shalt not steal. We said that too. Stealing, embezzlement, all kind of fraudulent things that we do toward each other. Even borrowing money and not paying back is stealing. When you promise to pay it back, is stealing from your neighbor, stealing from your wife, your husband, your daughter, or your son, or your friend. Not just the ones, and even those bills that you owe. This is why it's so important to try to get your own, savings that you borrow and pay back to yourself. Forget the credit cards, forget all of that. You pay yourself, you build up a certain account through your youth, starting it whenever you start working. And you make yourself poor. You say, well, I didn't borrow enough, I can't pay this back. Let me stop until I get something to pay what I have back. And you still have money for emergency. But the fact is, thou shalt not steal. God says don't do it. But they steal from you every day. They steal from you every day. Scam upon scam upon scam, even interest payments, even the amortization of your house is theft. That makes no sense. It's not that nobody wants to pay it. It just don't make no sense. It's theft. You've paid for that house 2, maybe 5, 10 times over. And it's really not even worth what you paid for it. Most new houses fall apart in the first 5 years. They start deteriorating. Oh, it's nice and beautiful. You keep it clean, but it's gone. Repairs upon repairs. Even an old house don't need that much repair as the new houses does after they have stood a certain period of time. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. False witness is the same things they call backbiting, backstabbing, lying, and even going before the judge or a jury and lying on those. Or you can be 2 or 3 that have lied and got a person unalived. Yes. Either way, lying, bearing false witness. In other words, you gossip and you say something about somebody and it's wrong. You tell a half truth and it's wrong, or you exaggerate, it's still a bearing false witness. Thou shalt not cover. Now this is the biggest one right here. And we're going to stop here. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Now, thou shalt not desire. If we do not desire that of our neighbors, we shall not kill, we shall not commit adultery, we shall not steal, nor shall we lie against our neighbors. Because all of this is of covetousness. Think about it. The same thing, we will honor our father and mother because we do not covet to have our own authority, or we think that they owe us everything in our lives. So covetousness covers it all. If we do not covet, we will not desire these things. We will not kill, commit adultery, steal, or bear false witness against our neighbor. Nor we will want to steal his ox. See, you have to look at what he's saying here. This is not just a commandment. It's really a coverall of all these commandments. To not be covetous, to not desire the things to the point of killing, committing adultery, stealing, or lying against your neighbor. Covet. So covet is a cover word. They've sort of put it in a way that it sounds like it's evil. Desire is not evil in itself. Desire, when you covet or desire something, he's saying don't desire these things that will cause you to kill your neighbor. Don't desire these things that will cause you to want his wife or her husband committing adultery. Don't desire things that you would go into your neighbor's house to try to find what you desire, to steal it. Don't desire your own trying to look good in front of your friends and trying to keep yourself out of trouble to bear false witness against your neighbor or out of your own jealousy. This is a cover. So all the things of love your neighbor as yourself is not desiring the things of your neighbor that are not yours. He's talking about your brethren. But the fact is, we do it unto all men. We don't want to kill men just to be, because we hate them or jealousy. No, we don't want to do that. So these teachings are very intricate. In other words, the whole thing. Look at Exodus 20 and 17. Write that down. Write it down. I will not desire to kill. I will not desire to commit adultery. I will not desire to steal. I will not covet or desire to bear false witness against my neighbor, because why? That's your neighbor's. It doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. So therefore, if we do these things contained in the law, this is the moral law here, we will have peace.